When last you were talking with us, you said you had gotten about like three-quarters of the way through this hard drive and the material that's on it. Some of it's been circulating on the internet now, and some of it's really bad. Tell me what, and I realize probably also for certain reasons you can't divulge everything, but what can you tell us about the nature of the material on the hard drive and the impact on national security should the outcome of November 3rd election result in Joe Biden?
Okay, so there's three elements to the hard drive. The first, which was extremely important to me and the mayor, so much so that we drove down to Delaware to meet with the county police right outside of Wilmington and turn over the hard drive and a bunch of photos and emails to the authorities, and that related to child endangerment. And things that we saw on the computer that mandated reporting. Even under state law of Delaware, there's a mandatory reporting requirement where things of this nature have to be reported. When we came across it, we went down to Delaware and we submitted it to the Delaware authorities, the county authorities. They gave it to the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. And we understand that the state Attorney General then turned it over to the FBI, which the FBI already had it. So I don't know what the purpose of that was. That being said, there's two more elements that I see, one of which is the SEC violations. Jack Maxey from Steve Bannon's office, a big financial guy, has gone through the SEC violations. And I can tell you that there would be a an indictment, maybe, 20, 30 count indictment or more of SEC violations should the SEC get involved. And then there's the whole FBI, the fraud, what I would consider, and the mayor agrees, and he's done these kinds of investigations in the U.S. Attorney's Office, a RICO case. And that case would involve principals, Jim Biden, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and co-conspirators. So those are the three elements. There were about 28,000 images, photos. A number of them were, very personal and sexual photos of Hunter Biden and a number of people. There's a bunch of other images on there that some we felt very negative about, involving young people. And then there's probably 80 to 100,000 documents. Those documents are emails, text messages, and other documents. And at this point, we have pretty much given most of the people that have requested it from the press and the media. Unfortunately, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, NBC, ABC, CBS, they have not asked for anything. They don't want to see anything.
Not even a
I guess it
basic
doesn't make a
curiosity.
difference because Facebook and Twitter wouldn't put it out anyway.
Yeah.
But we have given it out, and let the investigation take its course.
So you referenced, and we're speaking with Bernard Kerik. You referenced the number of images that were on this hard drive, and so the speculation on the internet is that it is basically considered child pornography. Is that something that you can confirm, or is that correct? The speculation online?
I really can't get into it, but it was enough. It was enough for the mayor and I to physically
Right.
drive down to Delaware and meet with the authorities there and turn over the hard drive and a number of photos and emails that relate to a child that we felt necessary.
But
The
at the
authorities
least, it could be
had to look at.
actionable.
My concern, Dana, and this is,
Hmm.
I'm surprised that the media, at least the mainstream, anybody.
Right.
Have they interviewed the child yet? Have they? It's been over a week, I guess. Have they interviewed the child? Have they interviewed Hunter? Have they interviewed the child's mother? If you walked into a precinct in New York City or New York State, somewhere, New Jersey, where I live, and you gave them the evidence that I gave Delaware, I promise you, within 24 hours, child services would be at the house. They'd be talking to the kid. They'd be talking to the parents and anybody else involved. I'm concerned that the child has not been talked to. and somebody passed this on to somebody else who passed it on to somebody else. I think that's a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Um, but
The
we're not
other
getting any feedback, so we don't
Right.
know.
The other question that I have that is it's separate from what is on the hard drive, but it's how it relates to who had possession of the hard drive and why did they sit on it for so long. I remember I just when we watched a press conference from DNI Ratcliffe and Christopher Wray just I think what a week ago, it struck me because Christopher Wray apparently has been aware. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he's been aware of this laptop. Apparently, the FBI had it in their possession for some time. Why was there no movement on it, particularly if there were actionable items that were on this hard drive? And I know that there's political speculation and there's not a lot of trust in Wray, but that seems really a dereliction of duty.
Well, look, there's two things, and I think one of the things that the mainstream media didn't pick up on. There was a hard drive in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that went to the FBI there. A hard drive, a copy of the laptop that was in Delaware. The FBI got that hard drive, and the FBI picked up the actual MacBook Pro at the vendors on December 9th. They had a subpoena, a grand jury subpoena. They gave it to the vendor. They received a copy of the receipt of the contract where Hunter Biden dropped it off. They gave the vendor a copy of the subpoena. They gave him a receipt for the laptop itself, for the MacBook Pro, and they took it. So there's two copies of this computer, one the computer itself and one the drive that the FBI has had sometime before December 9th and on December 9th of last year. What they've done with it, nobody knows. And, my assumption is that they really haven't done anything because I'm sure that the first basic part of an investigation like this, you would subpoena, you would
Right.
start sending out grand jury subpoenas and start questioning people before a grand jury. And to our knowledge, none of that has happened. So I don't know what they've done.
And as to what you were discussing about the nature of some of the images, especially those involving minors, that dovetails into the name of, on one of the subpoenas, was that of an FBI special agent who apparently has a history with child abuse cases, and at least that's predominantly his record. And that name sparked a lot of discussion online because even though it was somewhat redacted, people could still see what whose signature it was. We played the soundbite of Mark Zuckerberg when we were coming in because he said something very interesting that has not been discussed. We are also discussing the dereliction of duty by media to the American voter and citizenry. He said that they had been warned by the FBI about potential disinformation right before the election. That sounds like this was organized to me because now it all seems to be coming together and making sense. Somebody in the FBI had this, they knew of this material, they sat on it. Is it feasible that they warned Facebook about this and now this is how social media got in to censor this story?
Well, look, if you can go back over the last 3 or 4 years since the Russian collusion thing started in the Steele dossier, um, the FBI has been talking about Russians, trying to interfere with our election over the last 3 years, 4 years. You'd have to be a moron not to know that. So I'm confident that Zuckerberg and Jack
Dorsey,
Dorsey,
yeah.
I'm sure, I'm positive they have a pretty good idea that Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians, they're constantly trying to get into our business. I personally don't think that's what this was. I'm very suspicious. I heard you mention a minute ago that you're not trusting of the government these days. Well, neither am I, especially what's happened over the last
Yeah.
3 or 4 years and the targeting of the president and other Americans by the Justice Department, the intelligence agencies, and the FBI. So I don't know what Zuckerberg's talking about, but here's what I do know. I'm 1,000% positive the information on that hard drive is accurate. I'm positive it was Hunter Biden's, and I'm positive under any other circumstance, an American person would be sitting in handcuffs in a jail cell right now if it was you and you were engaged in that kind of criminal conduct.
Yeah, and apparently everything, the materials at least that were given to the Senate has been authenticated. That was released yesterday. They said that they authenticated all those materials. So why hasn't there? I mean, who would be responsible for making that call? For making the call that would, this is actionable material that is on this hard drive. I mean, and even getting into some of the financials when you look at the business deals that here Joe Biden, even when he was vice president, this is when Hunter Biden was getting hired by these companies. And then even after, with the full expectation that he was going to be running for a higher office once again, selling and peddling influence. Who gives that call, Bernie? Who's the one who says, okay, let's go, at least on these charges, let's go and detain him based on just this information right now that we've authenticated?
In a case like this, because of the people involved and the former vice president, you would have to get the authorization from the Justice Department, the chief of the criminal division, maybe a deputy attorney general, deputy assistant attorney general. You would have to get that authorization to move forward. Um, why they did not, if they did, that's still all speculation. But I can tell you this: if I was the president and I knew what I knew today, I'd be looking for answers from the Attorney General. And I have a lot of confidence in the Attorney General himself. I have no confidence in Christopher Wray. I think he should have been removed many, many months ago. But I have confidence in the Attorney General. And the only thing I can think of is, given the Comey situation and in the Hillary case, maybe the Attorney General didn't want to make a move because he didn't want to look or make it look like he was interfering with the election in some way. But I have to tell you, the evidence in this case is overwhelming. It's
What?
it's
Yeah.
it's far more than overwhelming. So why they didn't act, I can't say. I don't know.
We're talking to Bernard Kerik, who has been going through that now infamous hard drive from Hunter Biden's laptop. Last question for you, Bernie, and we appreciate your time today. Why? A lot of people are questioning the timing. I mean, obviously, at any time this information should have been made available. Is it because it was being withheld? Is it because it was being suppressed? And what do you make of comments from, I know Senator Ted Cruz was talking about it, saying it wasn't going to move the needle much. Others were worried that it would detract from the president's messaging on the jobs numbers that we were talking about that earlier in the show, the historic GDP numbers that came out today. Is that a concern that you have? And also, what do you make of those comments about the timing and whether or not it moves the needle?
Look, I think the American people have to know that the guy that wants to be the president of the United States is completely corrupt. He's compromised. He could be in jeopardy, involving other countries, especially China, Kazakhstan, a number of countries. There's a bunch of stuff in there. Will it move the needle? It doesn't make any difference to me. What makes a difference to me is Joe Biden still has a security clearance. That makes a difference to me. Joe Biden's security clearance should have been pulled. The second they saw what's in this hard drive and looked at the business he was involved in with his son, his security clearance, anybody else, this is what I'm going by. Anybody else, any other service member, anybody in government, anybody in politics, their their clearance would have been pulled immediately, immediately. And
That's
he's still
significant.
running around, he's running for president. And I think it's insane.
That's hugely significant. Bernie Kerik, always appreciate you, my friend. Folks, you can go follow him at Bernard Kerik
Dana, thank
on
you.
Twitter.